Hey folks, how you doing? Dave McRae here. The date today is Monday, February the 4th, 2019. It is exactly 7:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Coming to you live here from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Tonight, I am going to be giving a live commentary on Halloween 2018. Now, I am a little late to the party on this. I know my fellow horror counterparts have already done this. But I was waiting because there were a couple of other things that I wanted to do that I'm tackling. As many of you know, I'm still in the middle of assembling and putting together my Halloween 2018 sequel idea. That video is coming eventually. And then, of course, I had the 3-hour live stream with Marion Singh. Marion, if you're watching, how you doing? So there were a couple other things that I was working on. So I'm a little late to the party on this, but here we are. Finally, I'm going to give you my live commentary thoughts on Halloween 2018. Now, if you have been following me for quite some time, you probably already know what I think of the movie. But to this day, I have still only seen the movie twice. That's it. Now, I know what many of you are thinking.
What? You haven't watched it 343,000 times on Blu-ray or 4K, Dave?
No, I haven't. And it's not because I thought the movie was, okay. It has nothing to do with that. It's just I bought it and I was like, oh, okay, I put it in the collection, whatever. I just didn't feel the need to sit and watch it right away. So this is actually going to be my third time, only my third time watching the movie with you guys. And I encourage all of you, each and every one of you who do have a copy of the movie, whether it's on Blu-ray, whether it's on DVD, whether it's 4K, or whether it's digital, to pop it in right now or turn it on right now, and I will give the cue, the okay to when to hit play. The okay to when to hit play. And we can watch it together. Now, obviously, for copyright reasons, I don't want Blumhouse or Universal suing me through the roof. You will not be able to see the movie nor hear the movie as I am watching it. You're going to be watching me watch it. But if we're watching together, or even if you're watching this after the fact and you're not watching it during the live stream, you can pop it in and we can watch it together. So now, normally when I do live streams on my Saturday movie nights, that's a Patreon thing, I don't have my headphones on. But I want to put my headphones on for this because I want to be able to hear the movie a bit louder than what I would have to have it on my monitors as opposed to, because obviously I don't want the movie going into the mic and getting a copyright thing and all that kind of crap. So I want to have the movie up a bit louder so I can hear it. So yeah, this is going to be my third time watching it. So hopefully everybody is ready to go in the chat room. Who do we got here? We got Punkum733, Ben Leggett. What? Probably saying that right. I don't know idea. Kevin Morris, Tabitha Short is ready. Mum Raven is ready. Mum Raven, not Dad Raven. Not Child Raven, Mum Raven. Okay, we are ready to go. All right, so let's see here. Hopefully I'm not blowing your ears out. I was a little hot on the mic there, so I apologize if I was blowing you guys out. Okay, so let's do this. And you guys know, I'm going to be honest. It's my third time seeing it. I haven't seen it since October. That's true.
You're like, what? You haven't seen it?
No, I saw it in Hollywood. Thanks to Lewis from the Nerd Report, we went and saw it at the Chinese Theater, which was my second time. Of course, my first time was at the world premiere here in Toronto. So let's watch this and let's give some commentary on it. All right, I am hitting play right now. Is everybody ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm hitting play right now. And what is coming up on the screen is the Universal logo. Looks very similar to my intro. Jeez, those bastards got inspiration. We're seeing the Universal beginning to come around, and John Carpenter's haunting score is playing. This is a great intro. When I was sitting in the theater in downtown Toronto watching the world premiere, and it began this way, I remember thinking to myself, that's vintage Carpenter. because there's nothing particularly distracting on the screen, so you really focus on the score. You got Universal, Miramax, Blumhouse, right? But you're not really caring about that, so your mind is really focusing. You're not getting lost in the narrative and the visuals yet, in terms of the score. So just this score, I remember thinking to myself, oh yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. And then, of course, we have Universal Pictures, Miramax, and Blumhouse present in the classic font and color as the original Halloween, a Malika Cad production, I believe is what it says, in association with Rogue House Pictures. And we cut in to the clock. Those are the eyes of Rhian Reese, I believe, anyway. She was a sweetheart, by the way. When I met her at the 40th anniversary convention, she's like new to this world of fandom and Halloween and horror, and she was great. That interview, by the way, if you want to check it out, is on my channel. There's Dr. Sartain. I gotta say, I don't hate Dr. Sartain. I don't like what they did with his character, but I don't hate the character. Okay, the character in and of himself, I don't hate. I don't like what they did. And we'll get to that when we get to that in the movie. But I didn't hate the character. When they introduced him here, I was like, oh, this is interesting. And he kind of sounds like this. Hello. And it's like, people are like, oh, it's just a Loomis ripoff. Well, yeah, he's got the Loomis vibe. And obviously, they wanted a Loomis type of character, which I think it would have paid off. I think it actually would have paid off had they not, in my opinion, botched it at the end of the movie. Dr. Sartain, checking back. Like, so far, when I'm watching this movie, the movie's just begun, I'm on board. Things seem quite serious, not hokey. What the hell was his first name? Dr. Sartain. I don't know what the hell he said. If this actor does not get any roles after this movie, he should just decide to do some ASMR shit on YouTube. Hello. Anything I say sounds beautiful. So this was interesting. So we have Dr. Sartain say that he studied under Dr. Loomis before he passed away. A bit of a throwaway line. They needed to sort of let you know what happened to Dr. Loomis. Okay, he passed away. Dr. Sartain, there's credibility there because Dr. Sartain worked under him. Okay, so he's the guy that now knows Michael the best. Okay. Kind of wrap that all up and, we're out of the way. Now, here we are coming into the courtyard. So far, I'm on board. I don't mind this. But I have to admit, I wasn't a big fan with how close they showed him. Like, that's okay. Seeing him from a distance from behind, that's okay. Because we would see him from a distance in the original film, right? By the car, through the classroom, by the bush in the distance. So seeing him even unmasked, but from behind, like, I'm okay with that. But I didn't like how closely we saw him, especially when we saw his face a little bit. I just wasn't a big fan of it. I think there were other ways, like this here, I think we're actually quite too close. And this here, certainly, I don't like. I'm not a big fan of it. I think you could have illustrated this scene without showing him in the shot. And certainly this. Now, a lot of you are going to like this, and that's okay, but keep in mind that this is a direct sequel to the original Halloween. Despite what you may feel, despite how angry you might be, all the other Halloween films in the canon, according to this new movie, does not exist. So I expected stylistically, in terms of visual aesthetics and continuity in terms of characters, to have been carried over. You don't want to do a carbon copy of John Carpenter's film, but stylistically and being true to the boogeyman aspect, I expected it to carry over. And this is like, you could do this without showing him too much in the ways that they did. And The Mask, I got something from my friend at the Attorney General's office. Again, another throwaway line. I mean, it just was kind of like, okay, well, we got to explain how he got the mask. Hey, it was your friend at the Attorney General's office. All right, it's my friend at the... It just felt like it was kind of tossed away. Now, a lot of people, like this here, no. Too much. It was even too much for me. It's cool. Like, it's not that it's not a cool shot in and of itself, but is it necessary to the character we know from the original film? Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, we saw his face at the end of the original movie. Yes, that's true. We did, but it was in darkness. It was for a split second. We're actually seeing more of Michael, even though it's from behind here, than we ever did in the original film. Now, a lot of people are kind of like, well, why didn't he go around to see that shot there from the side? That's, as long as it's always at a distance. I like that distance. We should only be seeing him in close proximity when he's in the outfit, when he's in the mask. Seeing his hands, that's okay, that's cool. A lot of people were like, why didn't he go around to the front of him? Because it wouldn't have been as tenseful. It wouldn't have been as tense as this. That's why. And of course, we cut into the music. Like, all in all, it was very clear to me as I watched that opening that, okay, I'm prepared now for what I think they're going for. This was going to be a very modern take on Halloween. Before I get more into that, I just want to say the opening credits is great, but I think the credits are moving far too fast. Now, maybe that's, you know what? It's 2018. Stylistically, we want to be faster, quicker. The theme is faster. It's quicker. It's more modern. You got that bum, 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 the guitar in there with some bass and okay. But I would have loved to have milked this. The credits are just coming on very fast. And that was one thing that I was hoping. I would have milked this opening for all it's worth because it's a strong opening credit sequence, and I think they could have taken their time a bit more. But that's a minor thing. But going into this movie, guys, I really was, it's not that I had unrealistic expectations, but again, there were certain things that I was looking for only because this is a direct sequel to the original film. And the way the original movie was shot stylistically in terms of its framing, in terms of its anamorphic aspect ratio, I believe it was 2:3:5, I think it is, in terms of its where the camera was held, how they utilized the shape, when to show him, how much they lingered on a shot, how quickly they moved away from a shot. All of that is part of the identity of the movie. So I was looking for a lot of that in this new movie, which I hardly saw any of. It's they were walking a fine line. Because let's not forget that John Carpenter said, when asked, so why did you get rid of all the sequels? Have you seen the sequels? And yet they decide to tip their hat to all of them? It just doesn't make any sense to me. If you acknowledge that they're garbage by saying they don't exist, don't worry about fucking tipping your hat to any of them.
Yeah, but we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Who cares? Suck it up. All the ones, suck it up. That's the reality you face. Anyway, so here we are, the filmmakers, podcasters, whatever the hell they are, just looked at the $3,000. They're sitting in the driveway of Laurie Strode. Chris Baber, super chat. Thank you, Chris. Cody Carpenter and John hit the nail on the head with this opening score. Yeah, they did. It was a solid score all around. There's a very serious tone to the movie, and that is something that you cannot, at this point, and that is something that you cannot take away from them. It certainly doesn't have the hokier vibe, pop culture-y vibe, very reminiscent of the times vibe like Halloween H2O does. So far, it feels like a serious film, which I was quite enjoying up to this point. I was thinking to myself, I'm invested. You know, there was a couple of things during the opening with how much they showed of Myers that I wasn't crazy on. I don't think they should have done that. I think they could have showed him far away, and every time they wanted to show him, they kept it at a distance. Because remember, he's that storm that's coming. He's the storm that's on the horizon that's coming from a distance. And even though the characters in the narrative, Aaron, I think his name was, right, is there in close proximity to him holding out the mask, we as the audience we're not Aaron. We're watching this from a distance. So to see that on the horizon, oh shit, he's coming, right? So I still would have utilized it that way in the opening, but that's me. Now, in terms of this, it's great that we don't see Laurie's face yet. We know it's her, but we don't see her yet. She opens the door. It's just the back of her head. We don't see her yet. Oh, this is good. This is good shit. Like the wind that's blowing. Whether or not that's actual wind or whether or not they had the fans out, probably the fans out. So I'm at the moment here where Laurie sits down. Rhea and Reese's characters just turned on the recorder. It's a great look on her face. She's like this.
I don't give a shit.
Good job, Jamie. She's like, radio, okay. It's great. It's a great performance. See, it's during this scene, really, that... It's during this scene that maybe Laurie has the mask. And maybe this is where the mask is revealed to the podcasters. Potentially. I'd have to think about that. But maybe Laurie has it. She has it on herself. She was able to obtain it. She got it somehow. It's a great performance because she's looking at them like she's heard this before. This isn't the first time that somebody's come to her door, that somebody's inquired about the past and what she's been through. She's been dealing with this for 40 years. Now, did you hear that line right there? He's a human being, you must understand. That was, again, David Gordon Green and Danny McBride's way of saying we're dealing with the human side of Michael Myers here. Although I will say I think they went a little too far because the remnants of the boogeyman in this movie, there's moments of it, but I think there's many, many missed opportunities, and there's moments where they could have utilized the boogeyman persona a bit more. I think they almost went too far and made him, again, he is a human being. We do have to remember that. But that supernatural edge wasn't there in the ways that it could have been. Yeah. Tabitha Short says she never left because she wanted to be prepared and ready for when it comes. That's another thing I think she should have referred to him in this movie as it. She keeps calling him, and she should have referred to him as it, like Dr. Loomis did. The performance is solid. It's a solid performance. Jamie Lee Curtis does a great job through the whole movie. That's fine, that dialogue there, I'll murder you and your whole family, okay. But this is a character that is completely useless and unnecessary. If you remove, the fuck's this guy's name again? Allison's father. You remove Allison's father, here comes the peanut butter on his penis. Fuck. This was a moment where Ray, thank you, Kevin. This is a moment where I was like, and I remember during the world premiere, while watching this, thinking to myself, fuck. Because it's unnecessary. No one says that. Here it is. Nobody says that. And the way he said, I got peanut butter on my penis. Like as if he realized I shouldn't be saying this. I got my penis. It's unnecessary. If you remove the Ray character altogether, you can then focus on the relationship between Karen and Allison, and it's more in line and true with the passing down of trauma, right? Lori spent 40 years having 2 failed marriages. She can't keep a relationship going. She had her own daughter taken away by the state. It only seems, the probability is high that Karen would end up in a similar boat. Maybe not as crazy as her mom because she didn't go through those things, but her herself, because she didn't have a mom or a dad to take care of her, that she would end up maybe in a couple of relationships that weren't as good. So maybe she's a single mom with her daughter Allison. Then you focus on the relationship between these 2 characters, because the character of Ray's useless. You can remove him from the equation and the movie doesn't lose anything other than just an extra body to kill, but you can replace that with somebody else. He's completely expendable. And maybe that's why he's there, but the comedy just doesn't work for me. Okay, we're with Allison, Vicky, and Dave walking along the sidewalk. I was disappointed. Here's our first look at Haddonfield. This is our first look at Haddonfield in 2018. And although this mimics the shots of the original movie with the 3 girls walking along the sidewalk, there's nothing I'm seeing here that's milking the environment, that's milking the town. I want shots of I want to be reintroduced to the town of Haddonfield. And I'm not really seeing a lot of that here. I'm seeing some ghosts. But I really think maybe Allison should have been walking alone. And then we see, we milk some of the shots of the wind blowing in the trees. We see somebody say, "Hey, Allison, how you doing? Hi, Mr. Johnson." She's walking along. She's alone, right? And we really, we get shots of the town and the leaves blowing. Really reintroduce us to the town of Haddonfield. Reintroduce us to the town of Haddonfield. This conversation always felt very awkward to me between these characters. Didn't feel natural at all. And of course, we get the throwaway line of, "Oh, that's just something people made up," in terms of Lori being related to Michael. So that was sort of just the end of it. Again, there were a couple integral things that David Gordon Green and Danny McBride were faced with in terms of continuity that they quickly brushed over and moved on, which I understand that you cannot focus too much on it because you have a lot more to tell. But that's just something I think really Lori at the beginning of the movie, when she's talking to the podcasters, that's when the reveal of, "Oh, that's something people made up," should have been mentioned. Lori should have said that because one of the podcasters should have said, "Weren't you related to him, or wasn't he a cousin or a brother or something?" And then she goes into this little, 30-second thing about how that was something people made up, and no, it was. To hear it from the horse's mouth, to hear it from her, would have been much more satisfying than just some throwaway line from some woman we've never met and we're introduced to right now and we have no emotional attachment to. Because people are emotionally attached to the narrative of the brother-sister story arc. They're emotionally attached to Halloween 2. So to hear it thrown away by some girl we're not emotionally attached to doesn't feel organic. So we should have heard it from Lori's mouth. Now, of course, for those of you that don't know, the voice of the teacher here is PJ Souls, Linda from the original Halloween. This got a big laugh at the world premiere when she looks through the window and she sees Lori standing there. I like it. It's not the worst thing in the movie. It's a little cheesy, but that's right. Fuck college kids. Fuck college kids. Save your money, especially in the US where tuition's like $30,000 a year. Ha! It's designed to keep you in debt. Well, I mean, unless you want to be a doctor or something, then you kind of have to go and, This is a nice moment. I mean, I think most of the narrative should have, yeah. This is a nice bit of exposition. It's okay. We're getting to know that there's a relationship there between Laurie and her grandmother, despite the fact that, and this of course also shows and illustrates for us that Karen, Allison's mother, is lying to her. So, yeah. Allison is very much like her grandmother. Karen, on the other hand, not so much. But Allison is, even though she may not realize this subconsciously, she's very much like her grandmother. It's no coincidence that at the end of the movie, it's Allison holding the knife, and that's what we focus on. This piece of music you're hearing here, I love. This is actually not a bad scene. Yeah, it's probably one of the movie's strongest scenes for many different reasons. Stylistically, the way it was shot, the way it was edited and cut together, the music, of course, that they chose. It's one of my favorite pieces of music from the movie, and I think it's well done. I don't think it's necessarily necessary that they show him like this, but I'm a stickler, guys. There are certain ways to utilize the presence. Like, I wouldn't have shown that, him sitting down and sort of seeing his face. Now, to many of you, it may not bother, but to me, I'm not a big fan of that. There are other ways I think they could have done it that would have been even better. To keep in line with keeping him a mystery, like, what does he look like? Because right now you can pause many moments on here and get a good idea of what he looks like. This is a great moment. It should have been Laurie that broke him out. That's a great shot. That's a great shot. Very symbolic. For those of you that are wondering, because I've been asked, no, that's not Michael literally outside her door. But you see, looking back on it in retrospect, I really believe that it should have, because that was the original plan, as far as I know, was to actually have Laurie the one who was responsible, or really heavily allude to the one that it was Laurie that caused the crash. I think they should have gone with that. 100%. It makes sense. It makes sense that she's so crazy and she doesn't believe that he's necessarily going to live out the rest of his days at this new place. And if she does believe that, she looks at this as her only opportunity left, what could be her last opportunity to kill him, to break free from the past. Because she would have no idea that Dr. Sartain, even though it wasn't fully said, but it was sort of inconspicuously alluded to the fact that he was the one that may have been responsible for the breakout of Michael. But she had no idea that was going to happen. That would have been sheer luck, right? So, I mean, what if he didn't do that? Well, we wouldn't have this movie. So it should have been Laurie, because she had the motive and the means and the passion to do it. You don't necessarily have to see her do it. You don't necessarily have to do that. Would have been better, actually, if you don't. But, yeah. So I'm at the part here where the family's having dinner, and Laurie Strode has shown up. She's drinking some wine because she's an alcoholic. I didn't mind this scene. It was all right. because we're really sort of like, all these characters in this movie are new. We're not emotionally attached to any of them except for Laurie. We don't need much convincing to remember and to get emotionally attached to Laurie Strode. She brings her A game. I mean, it's one of her best performances in a long time. It's too bad the movie wasn't better. Like I said, it's not a bad movie. It's just par for the course of what you would see today. But it could have been a lot better. And when I say it's not a bad movie, I mean it's what you would expect from a horror movie of this kind. But there's a lot of missed opportunities. But one of them is not Jamie Lee Curtis's Laurie Strode. Yeah, Ray is useless. You could remove Ray and it could just be Allison, Karen, and whatever the fuck the guy's name is. This is an interesting... I'm okay with this. Like, I like seeing how the past affects Laurie Strode. I like seeing that. But I do not like what we're about to see, which is Judy Greer's horrible performance talking about the past and about how she grew up. It's just, the acting, it feels wooden to me. It feels like she's reading off a teleprompter. I thought that the first time I saw it. I thought that the second time I saw it. And I have no doubt it just seems so like, oh, here's the moment where we give some exposition. You know what I mean? It's like, Mom, why are you telling me this all of a sudden now? Like, can't we go home and have some coffee and get in our jammies and have this conversation? Like, you just suddenly spring this on me right now? It doesn't feel organic. It feels a little strange and wooden and one-dimensional. I'm not a big fan of this performance at all. And Allison looks like she's like, yeah, can we talk about this later? But, oh, now it's out, right? Oh, there's another thing. Oh, we needed to get this out. Now we got it out. And it's like, there's more creative ways you could have told this. You could have had a great moment between the two of them intimately over a tea or something at night and really played it up, you know? Same amount of time, but it just feels like a throwaway thing. I'm at the point now where the kid and the father are talking about dance class in the truck. Believe it or not, this is probably, to me, one of... There's no music. Except for what's coming from the... coming from the radio, which if you pay attention to the lyrics of the song that's on the radio. I like that. That was okay. Having that, I wish I had you all alone, playing from the radio and that weird kind of, I didn't mind that. That's okay. This is very moody and very atmospheric. There's no music. I think they could have, but relatively speaking, as far as the rest of the movie goes, this is one of the stronger suspenseful moments in the movie. There's not a lot of suspense in this movie at all, but this is one of the moments where there's little bits of it and it becomes interesting. The kid closes the door, grabs his gun. You just hear the elements of where he is, the fog in the headlights. I like it. I don't mind it. I like when the kid comes up on the cop and he says, "Run!" That was genuinely pretty cool because it's like, how bad is it that the cop is just telling the kid to get the fuck out of here? I'm not going to muster up energy to save you or to help you or to get... No, I'm just telling you, get the fuck out of here. How bad is it? We'll talk more about that as the movie goes along. But I thought that was pretty haunting. And again, there's no music. Frightening. Yeah, it's good. You just hear the elements and the crickets and the frogs, and now the rest of the patients have like gone off into the woods or something, and it's just him. Kids walking up into the bus, and this is of course where he shoots Sartain. Too bad he didn't shoot him in the head and got rid of him earlier. If that was going to be his... Now we have music. And of course, this is where Michael sits up in the back seat and kills the kid. I like that. Did you catch the glimpse of his face in the dark? Michael Myers? That was, even though we saw his face, that wasn't bad. It was quick, it was dark, it was really kind of hard to see. If that was the only time we ever saw anything to do with his face in this entire movie, that would have been awesome. The impact, and kept everything we saw in the courtyard at the beginning of the movie from a distance. Every time you wanted to show Michael in the shot, you kept it from a distance. That would have been awesome. And very much in line with keeping the presence of the boogeyman there. Of course, this is where we're introduced to Hawkins. And I like Hawkins as a character. Will Patton is a great actor, period. He's a great character actor. And he's great. Hawkins should have been the sheriff. Hawkins should have been the sheriff, because the sheriff they have, Sheriff Barker, I think it is, some stooge with a cowboy hat. I don't understand. He's completely expendable, completely useless. And when Hawkins approaches him about the severity and the seriousness of what is about to transpire, he's just like, what are we going to do? Cancel Halloween? What? Like, you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't be behaving. If this was serious, if this was actually happening, you find out that Michael Myers has escaped and potentially coming back to Haddonfield, you wouldn't act that way. There's no reason why you can't just get rid of him and make Hawkins the sheriff. Because he's got the kind of gravitas and seriousness, and it makes sense if he was one of the first arresting officers on scene 40 years ago. He's lived his whole life there. He has a relationship with Laurie. I don't mean that kind of relationship, but, a relationship in the sense that they know each other. It makes sense that he would naturally move up in rank and become the sheriff. So I'm at the scene now where the podcasters are walking through the graveyard, approaching Judith Myers' gravestone. This is a cool scene in the sense that we get to see Judith's gravestone, but I think it would have been better if Laurie Strode had been the one who had gone to this gravesite and maybe visited the site of the grave of her dead friends. Maybe not, it doesn't have to be all of them, but she visits Annie, she visits Linda, she visits Bob. Because we have to remember that Judith Myers is no longer is no longer related to Laurie Strode. So this is, although it's cool, this is really nothing more than for nostalgic purposes. It would make more sense to have Laurie go to the gravesite, visit Annie, Bob, and Linda, have an emotional moment, very much like what's happening here, maybe some flashbacks, and as she's leaving the graveyard, the camera's following her, and we see Judith Myers' stone. Like, we actually see the stone as she's walking by it, and maybe the camera stops on it, so we're like, oh shit, and maybe it doesn't, maybe it just continues to go by. I think I would have traded that. I would have compromised and had more with Laurie showing the effects of the past, of how it's affected her by visiting Bob, Linda, and Annie's graves. And then, she looks up and she sees the wind blowing. She knows that a storm is coming. I think it would have been kind of cool. So here I'm at the scene now where Hawkins is trying to tell the sheriff the severity and the seriousness of this. Listen to that. 40 years ago. Babysitter murders, 40 years to this day. I don't understand that. If he had just said, Michael Myers on the loose on Halloween night with a bunch of 40, with whatever, bags, blah, 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 blah. we're going to have a shit, whatever he said there, we're going to have blah, blah, blah on our hands. If he had just left it at that, why does he have to say, what are we going to do? Cancel Halloween? Anyway, I got to go take a shit. Like, he might as well just have said, anyway, I got to go take a shit. He might as well have. He's useless. Hawkins has the presence you want. Okay, now this scene here, we're at the gas station. This scene where Michael Myers gets his mask. This scene where Rhian Reese's character is murdered in the bathroom. This should have been done at night. This should have been done at night. Because imagine them pulling over into this gas station. It's nighttime. And maybe there's some sheet lightning in the distance. A storm is coming. Maybe it comes, maybe it doesn't. But they pull in. You know, there's a couple of people there. It's at, you know, there's some people there. I don't mean it's out in the boonies where there's nobody. But it's nighttime. You just change this from day to night. And the atmosphere and the mood that you could have utilized, not just in general, but with Michael Myers, with the shape. Because when he puts on his mask, the shot is cool. It's a cool shot through the window in the back of the car, but it's during the day. And he's out in the middle of fucking everywhere where everybody can see him. And why isn't somebody going, hey, dude, what the fuck you doing? Hey, look, some stooge is putting... Do you know what I mean? Imagine that same scene at night. That same scene at night where you can utilize the light and shadow. Maybe there's a lamppost right there and you're lighting one side of his face as he's putting on the mask for the first time, and you're looking through the back of the car and only sort of maybe 50% of him is lit up, and the same thing is playing out, and he stands there and he closes the trunk. It's like, oh shit, the boogeyman that we know from 78 is back. And you get the same sort of impact you do like you did in the first movie with that phone scene where he lifts his head up into frame as he brings the trunk down. It's like, oh shit. Do you know what I mean? I think it would have been more impactful, and they should have utilized the opportunity for that, because there's no reason why this couldn't have been at night. Because you jump right from this to it being at night anyway. I didn't really care that they were supposedly tipping their hat to H2O with this bathroom stall scene. Because the woman, if you remember from Halloween H2O, was never actually killed. So there was never a struggle that takes place inside of the stall. So, you know, it does play out as its own thing. Now, we just saw the guy with his jaw broken, and Aaron's like, what the fuck, right? I do like that a lot of the kills you see, and I mentioned this in my epic Halloween movie review. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's on my channel. That although I am a theater of the mind kind of guy, and I much prefer keeping kills to a minimum or off screen, I will say that I do like the impact of the reveal of the kills. In terms of, we just come across it like, what the fuck? Michael Myers is just dropping the teeth over the bathroom stall. That's genuinely frightening. It's creepy. But this is what I don't like. I got to admit it, guys. I don't like how much they show his face. Or really show Michael Myers and the back of his head. And they almost humanize him too much. And you know me, he is a human being. But it's almost like they went too far the other way. And imagine this at night. Aaron opens the door. It's night behind him. Fuck. You hardly see him. I don't like seeing this. Look at that. I don't like seeing his face. Not a big fan of it. Not a big fan of it. That's cool if you guys are. That's totally awesome. I'm not a big fan of it. I'm not a big fan of seeing Michael doing this. How awesome would it be if we're just focused on her and you just hear this mayhem happening and you hear him going, oh, fuck. What the fuck's her name? I forget her name now, but say, help! Help! You just hear him and she's like, it's like, what the fuck is going on? And then he opens the thing and it's like, oh, shit. We didn't need to see him handling Aaron. It's Aaron, right? We didn't need to see him handling him. Just allude to it. Make the sound like, fuck. And then he whips open the stall, and it's like, oh, shit. Imagine this scene right here. He's lifting up the trunk. He's got the mask in his head. Imagine this at night. Imagine with like a lamppost shining down on it. And he's putting it on, you know? And it's like, what the fuck? And it's dark. And it's lit. You know, like you have that low-key lighting from the one side of his face. He puts the trunk down, and we see right through the center of the car at the back. And it's just lit on one side. And it's like, he's back. Because that's the visual aesthetic continuity that I was looking for. And that's not unreasonable, because so much of that is part of the identity of the boogeyman, the execution of who he was. And this is a direct sequel to that movie. You can do all that and still make it your own, and still put your own style, your own stamp on it. You can still do that. But there's certain things where I'm like, oh, because there's no reason why that couldn't have been at night, or maybe at twilight where it's getting kind of dark. There's no reason for it, because it gets dark fairly fast here in a second. So that would have been really cool. That would have been really cool to see that. Of course, this is Allison and Karen coming home. Because you could have actually reversed this. You could have, like, this is during the day. So you could have showed all of this before you show the gas station stall death scene. Like, you know, if you wanted to keep this in there and go, well, it doesn't really work continuity-wise because of the thing, it's dark, and then we go back to its light. No, you could have reversed it. Sure you could. You might have had to have take some things out, maybe cut some things to help the pacing still match, but you still could have, because it's important to note that you can't just reverse scenes. You can't just take that here and put that there, because funny enough, it can throw the pacing off and it doesn't really feel organic. But you could have done that. You might have had to chop some things up, rearrange a couple of things, but I think it would have been worth it, because stylistically, you're being true to who the boogeyman is. Right now, he's almost a little too human. And I know that might sound funny to some of you who are like, but Dave, you say you're such a huge proponent. I am, but I don't deny that there's that something there. Shut the fuck up, Ray, and get out of here. Useless character. I know jiu-jitsu. Like, fuck. So one of the worst lines in the entire movie is coming up here in a second from, here it is. The world is not a dark and evil place. It's full of love and understanding. It was like, really? It's so not true that obviously it was written for the sake of a laugh, right? Because of how naive and dumb she is, or appears to be. Get it out of there. Just get it out of there. This scene here with Hawkins and the sheriff discovering the bodies could have been done at night. Could have been done at night. Grave Warmer, $5 super chat. Thanks, Grave Warmer. I really liked Aaron's character. Should have lasted longer. Meet back up with the Strodes later on. He could have almost had Loomis-esque presence. Yeah, I didn't... If you watch my review, then you'll know how I feel about that. I like that line. There's a reason we're supposed to be afraid of this night. So now it's nighttime in Haddonfield. We didn't see Michael get to Haddonfield. We didn't even see a Haddonfield sign. I don't even think there's one welcome to Haddonfield sign, unfortunately. I would have liked to have seen that. I would have liked to have seen more kids, trick-or-treating and really milk it up. K Prince, $5 super chat. Thank you. Could have put the kid's death and the bathroom scene in the same night. Yeah, you could have. Yes, you could have. So here we are, the one-shot scene. A little too bright. I like where the camera is, I admit. I think it could be a bit lower to give Michael a bit more ominous presence. I would have not played the Halloween theme here. I've always felt that. I love the Halloween theme. It's iconic, but I don't know. It just feels a little out of place to me for some reason. I think there's other music you could have utilized to help build the suspense. There's no suspense here. It's a cool shot visually, but there's no suspense here at all. Watch the scene in Halloween 2 even, when he goes over to the Elrods or he goes and kills that girl in the house. Much more suspense, the way it was utilized. Michael picks up the knife. It's cool that it's one shot. But I don't feel anything here. I don't. The way he's lit, I don't know. I think the house should be darker. Like, this is okay. See how it's got a warm tungsten sort of feel to it. But see how he's lit here? How it's darker? And how he comes through here and how it's darker? Again, it's not, this is just, I'm nitpicky about this because of what this is a sequel to. If this was a sequel to Halloween 5 or Halloween H2O or any of the other films, who cares? It's par for the course. But when you tell me that this is a direct sequel to the original, I expect to see certain things stylistically. And I see remnants of it, but not nearly enough that I think should be there when we're talking about the boogeyman and that presence. Marion Singh's death is coming up. Marion, if you're watching, your death is coming up. There's Marion. Like all the pumpkins there. That's really cool. We're almost seeing too much of the shape. We're following him. It's too much of him. That's a cool shot. Looking through the window, you sort of see his face. That's in the ballpark of what stylistically you want to go for. Seeing his shadow walk across against the other side of the house here in a second. Well, actually, excuse me, you actually see him walk, but you see his shadow. It's kind of cool. Good night, Sally. I'm about to die. Hey, Marion. She's a trooper. Here comes Michael Myers. Love it. Now, I love it in terms of its execution. But, it's a cool shot, but it lacks the suspense. It lacks any sort of build-up or suspense that you want. I think it's visually cool, but I don't feel suspense. I don't feel like, shit. And part of that is done through, I think having the Halloween theme, I actually think was the wrong choice. I think they could have had a different theme, put the lights off as he goes under the part there where he's heading towards the garage to pick up the Hamel, turn the lights off or make a couple of them on and one going so it's sort of, we kind of see him, but we don't, right? Really utilize that boogeyman aspect, keeping him in the shadows all the time, or for the most part. Oh, God. All right, here comes the humor. Danny McBride, you're a funny guy, but this humor does not belong in this movie. You can't please everybody. And this movie acts like, well, we got to please this demographic. We have to please that demographic. We got to please this generation. We got to please that generation. No, you do a faithful sequel to the original Halloween and you let the chips fall where they may. I understand that's probably not the best business decision. But then then what happens is that the beginning of your movie, the first act is actually quite strong. Your third act is quite strong, but your middle act, the second act, is having an identity crisis. Is it a comedy? Is it a comedy horror? Is it this movie or is it that movie? And you run into some problems, which is why it feels a little disjointed in some parts. Like, the humor here is genuinely funny. it just doesn't belong in a Halloween movie. Even making the creative choice to have him clip his toenails. He could have been doing anything on the couch. He could have been playing games. He could have been sitting there drawing. He could have been talking to, it couldn't have been talking, but whatever it is, right? The problem is that the clipping the toenails in and of itself is part of the humor. It's just too much to me. It doesn't belong, and there's no real suspense building here. I don't feel any sort of suspense here. And we have to remember, I'll get to your super chats in a second, guys. We have to remember that the end result of this scene, the climactic end to this scene, was ruined in the trailer. So any sort of suspense that they were trying to build up was ruined in the actual trailer. It's a great way to end a trailer. It's a great promotional shot, which it ended up being used for, that scene where, Michael's like this and you see the back of Vicky. But any sort of, we know how Vicky's going to die, we know when Vicky's going to die, and we know where Vicky's going to die before we even go and watch the movie. So sadly, any sort of suspense they were trying to create was ruined in the marketing. And I understand why they showed that. It's great stuff, but I don't think that was the right choice. And that's not David Gordon Green and Danny McBride. They have no say on how to market the film, unless you're, Spielberg. But that is a decision that was either done by Universal or I get it, but there's no suspense there. When Julian looks at the closet, we know. And maybe that's a misdirect. Maybe the director wants you to think something's going to happen in the closet, but it actually happens down the hall in the bathroom, right? Well, then that's genuine suspense. But it's not misdirect, because we know exactly what's going to happen. It's actually foreshadowing, not misdirect at all. So, there's little things like that I'm like, it's a great scene, but there's no suspense there because I know how it's going to end. And the execution isn't strong enough that even knowing how it's going to end, I still feel the suspense and build up prior to it because I know the execution's not that great. I'm at the scene now where Allison and I always forget this guy's fucking name. He's so useless that I forget his name. Anyway, Lonnie's kid. He's about to throw it in the punch or whatever that was there. Hey, super chats. Let's see here. Sorry, guys. Chris Baber says again, Marianne's death was my favorite. She's a great actor and a genuinely nice person online. Very H281 feel. Yeah, she's a sweetheart. She's awesome. My favorite kill in the movie. Absolutely. And we got Joe Smy John Jr. I think James was decent as Michael, but he didn't get the walk correctly. Yeah, I think he was all right. I mean, he's certainly, in my opinion, the best Michael Myers we've had probably since Nick Castle. He's a solid Michael Myers. Now, you see the shot here looking at Vicky through the window. There's a little bit of suspense here. But we still know how she's going to end, how she's going to die. But I do like that they would keep going back to the curtains, back to the laundry outside, but nothing happens. You don't see him amongst the sheets. You don't hear him breathing amongst the sheets. You don't even know if he's there. So that's misdirect. That's genuinely suspenseful. And then when she goes outside, Dave shows up and it's a jump scare. Okay, it's kind of lame, but at least there was that misdirect. So there's a little bit of suspense there if you want to call it that. But we know how this, they are building to something here, right? You are building to something climactic. You're building to the demise of these characters. Now, having not seen the movie, we already know how she's going to die. And it's not David Gordon Green's fault, because you can clearly tell that they were trying to build something, but I'm just here for Vicky's boobs. Yeah, she doesn't get topless. Much to the chagrin, as I'm sure, of a lot of people. So Dave and Vicky are making out on the couch. Oliver Mercer says, oh, definitely James Jude Courtney, really the best since Nick Castle, no doubt. He's such a cute kid. Julian is an awesome, cute kid. The problem is, as well, is that when Michael Myers actually does come out of the closet, Julian says, oh shit! And gets, like, it's said as it's supposed to be sort of funny. I wouldn't have played it that way. This is fucking happening. This is the boogeyman. This is your opportunity to bring the seriousness of the 1978 original into the 21st century. And that doesn't mean there wasn't some little humor in that movie. And it's certainly dated now. But to have Julian, no, he should have cowered in the corner or tried to go up and fight, but he gets tossed to the side and he's scared and he runs down. He's genuinely crying. And this is the only part that out of this whole scene here that's sort of suspenseful, I guess. But you see, you already know how it's going to end. Imagine if you didn't know that he was in the closet. You'd be like, oh, okay, I guess. Because they delay it so long to actually show the closet, or show him in the closet, right? Because they allude to the closet earlier when Julian, after Vicky leaves the room, he looks at the closet and they focus on it, right? Telling you, the audience, pay attention to that. But is it misdirection? Then they have Vicky just now go up, excuse me, sir, what's going on? Fake again, misdirection, right? So now you as the audience, if you didn't know, you'd be like, oh, maybe nothing's going to happen in the closet, because that's what they're going for. They're delaying that gratification. They're dangling that carrot because they're trying to get you to think that nothing's going to happen because there's so many false starts. But in reality, we already know it's going to happen. So any sort of suspense is just gone. And I truly believe, here we are at the scene now that it's about to happen, I believe that Vicky should have gone up to the door. What would have been a better thing? It works the way it does, but I think what was preventing the closet door from closing, she should have then opened the closet door. It was dark. She turns on the light, and there he is. Like, oh! Do you know what I'm saying? Or she opens the closet door, she can't see what's blocking it, and his face slowly emerges from the darkness. Those are the two ways that I would have gone about it, rather than just opening it with the light on and he's already there. And here it is right now. Oh, shit! There's no, I don't feel anything. Do you guys feel it? Like, do you guys feel genuine suspense and empathy for this character? I just don't. I feel like I just don't. Do you see what I mean? Julian comes back up the stairs. He's like, nope. And run. Like, why would you wouldn't do that, man? I don't buy it. I don't buy it. So it just feels sort of like he looks cool, right? Michael looks cool. He looks cool. That's not an issue. Put that over there. We're talking about what could have been done. And again, it's not that these guys didn't put their heart and soul into it. David Gordon Green, Jason Blum, if you guys are watching this, like, come on. I mean, it's hard to make a movie and you can't please everybody. And David Gordon Green did some pretty cool stuff. He did. But I think there were a lot of missed opportunities. And I think maybe, I don't know, maybe if you'd taken your time a bit more, maybe if you had more time to shoot it, just utilize that presentation of the shape just a bit more. Not copying Carpenter, but just understanding the nuances of why that first movie is so revered. It's not just the music. It's not just the mask. It's the utilization of the character's presence. That's so important. I'm out of water. Oh, I just hit my head. Here we go. But I didn't feel much there. He looks great, and I do like the shot when he kind of looks like this at the camera, but it's kind of blurry a bit, as if Vicky's taking her last breaths, right? You know, and it's kind of like, it's cool. I think it could have been darker just a bit, but it's a cool, like the shot is cool in the sense of, okay, he's tilting his head kind of, you know. Yeah, that fucking sheriff is useless. This should be the sheriff. Hawkins has showed up at the Vicky residence and is like, Haddonfield Sheriff's Department. I repeat, this is Officer Hawkins. Change that to, I repeat, this is Sheriff Hawkins. Yeah, Sheriff Hawkins. That's who it should be. Because he knows the seriousness and what they're up against. Sorry, yeah, you're right. Not the Vicky residence. The residence of Julian. My apologies. Because obviously he's being babysat, right? Now, the Halloween 3 tip, in terms of seeing the Halloween 3 masks, that didn't bother me. Because there's nothing, it's not associated with the rest of the canon in terms of the Michael Myers storyline. You can throw those masks, it plays off as just having masks on a couple of kids in the background. So I didn't care about that. It didn't bother me. Goob Blum says, doesn't care about Dave. He doesn't care about the quality of the sequel either. He knows it will make... Blum doesn't care about Dave. Me? No, of course he doesn't care about me. Why the fuck would he care about me? That's not how you run a business. You're right, though. Of course not. So Hawkins is about to lift up the ghost sheet, obviously being a tip of the hat to the original, and finding Vicky dead. And here comes the one and only Nick Castle, ladies and gentlemen. His one and only shot in this entire movie as Michael Myers. There he is. There's Nick Castle, and it is not by accident. There's the head tilt, the famous head tilt. Nick Castle, ladies and gentlemen. And now it's James Jude Courtney. And did you see how fast it changed? The mirror broke, and it was almost as if it was to Michael Myers. That was Nick Castle to James Jude Courtney. A almost literal passing of the torch. But it's not by accident that the creative choice was made to have that when the first time Laurie lays eyes on Michael Myers, it's Nick Castle. And he's tilting his head like, I know you, kind of thing, right? That was pretty cool. Now, here's Dave's... Again, we see Dave's death. And when Hawkins comes across Dave's death, it's like, what the fuck? I will give credit where credit is due. I will always be a theater of the mind kind of guy. But the idea of stumbling upon something that is so horrific, it almost acts like, what the fuck are we dealing with here, right? Like, I can only imagine first responders, and maybe there's some that are even watching. Are there any paramedics here or any doctors or police officers? I can only imagine that stumbling across a horrific accident and the car is like half of what it used to be. And you think to yourself that, like, it has to go through your mind, as it does anybody, how bad was the accident that's all that's left? Do you know what I mean? And I like the play on that, where it's kind of like, how bad, like, what are we dealing with here? How strong is this guy? Who is this guy? How bad is it? I'm spitting here. How bad is it that that's the end result? So it's kind of cool in that sense, because we're not actually seeing the kills take place, blood spewing all over the place and we're just seeing the end result, and it's eerie and it's creepier that way. So if I had a choice between showing blood spewing all over the place and being like Friday the 13th and having to show blood but showing the end result, I would go with the way that they did it here. See, what it should be is not Frank. It should be, Barker, what are you doing here? You're just standing there. You're a useless stooge in a fucking cowboy hat. Oh, wait, there's his line. Laurie Strode, meet Dr. Sartain. Anybody could have said that. You see, now when she says, oh, you're the new Loomis, that's the extent of the humor that you would expect in a movie like this. Is it necessary? No, it's not necessary. But that's sort of, it didn't bother me. Like, that was like, okay, it's a little quip. It's like something she would say because of her character. Her character doesn't give a fuck anymore. Her character's got this witty, I don't give a fuck about anybody, anything anymore. So it seems like she would be witty like that. She would say something like that to this guy. It doesn't seem forced. Whereas the other stuff seems completely out of place. I like that line. That was a dumb thing to pray for. And the idea that Dr. Sartain wants to see Michael Myers in his natural habitat and see him with Laurie Strode, like, that motivation never bothered me. It makes sense, right? I mean, that doesn't bother me because he worked under Dr. Loomis. He understood Dr. Loomis. He's now sort of taken that mantle. Dr. Loomis thought he was pure evil, but Dr. Sartain's not so sure. And, he wants to see him. It's just the execution of what ends up happening, which we'll get to. So now we're at the scene now where Oscar and Allison are walking along the street, and Oscar is clearly in the friend zone. If anybody has ever been in the friend zone, you know exactly what I'm talking about. 252 people watching right now. That's awesome. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Appreciate it. Hopefully you're watching along with me. Again, I'm giving commentary on the fly, so I could stop and start, but that would take forever. So I'm doing the best I can here. Like, I like what Dr. Sartain is saying here. I like what he's saying. Because when you know psychology and you understand sociology and human behavior, what he's saying actually is, there's truth to what he's saying. So it's interesting. It's kind of cool. Got a super chat from Brandon Morrow, who says, "Hey Dave, the best shot of this movie that reminds me of 1978's Halloween is when Michael first enters Laurie's house and the camera pans up at his face and it's completely dark." Yes, we'll get to that. I like that shot too. But we'll talk about it. This whole conversation between Hawkins and Sartain is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing that's foreshadowing that Sartain is about to do what he's going to do. There's nothing that says he's not going to do that, but there's nothing that says that I'm literally going to murder this police officer to feel what death feels like, to feel what it feels like to kill, because I'm so insane. So at the scene here where Laurie Strode is at Karen's house wanting to know where Allison is, because she knows that Michael, of course, is back. Do as I say. Allison is climbing over the gate. Oscar's already climbed over. This is where awkward, weird-looking guy tries to kiss cute girl. Never works out. I love that. Yeah, you did it. Yeah. I totally want you. Cameron, that's his name. Fucking keep forgetting his name. He's so inconsequential that I keep forgetting his name. So I don't mind this scene. This is a scene that plays out pretty organic. Feels like a conversation that two kids that age would have. This is very reminiscent of utilizing the presence and the essence of the execution of the shape, but making it your own. Mark Warling, $2 super chat. Thank you, Mark. Says, best scene coming up, Shape hunts Allison music. Oh, it's a great piece of music. Unfortunately, the scene, in my opinion, is just far too short. Far too short. Now, Oscar turns around here, beer cans all over the ground, and sees Michael standing in the distance. Now, you see how we're utilizing the shot. He's far away. Right? So we're seeing it from Oscar's perspective. They don't show Michael Myers and then cut in to see him closer, because that's not how Oscar is seeing him. We're seeing Michael the same distance away as Oscar is. So we now, at this very moment in time, are living vicariously through Oscar. We are Oscar, okay? Because they could have easily have shown him from a distance and then cut in to see. They didn't do that, and that's good. That's good, because you want to keep that separation there. They didn't cut in and show a close-up of the spot of where he was. No, they always from a distance. We are Oscar. We are alone in this scene. And now we're seeing him from the same perspective as we would. It's creepy. He's backlit. You don't see the mask all that well. Very creepy. That is the essence. It's not fully what I would have done, but it's in the ballpark. Of course, light comes on, and this is a cool scene. Music is all right here. It's good. Right, so now we see this kill happen, but it's nothing but a to the back. Sound department works their magic in terms of sound effects, and you get that kind of sound. But again, you're seeing the end result, and the Shape Hunts Allison theme begins. Oh, like, what the hell happened? Did he fall? Did he, like, is this an accident? Did he trip and, And here comes Michael Myers. Now, this scene should have been extended. I'm getting goosebumps right now at the opportunities missed. Allison should have ran through the streets, hid in somebody's backyard, utilized the Shape stalking her a bit more. It ends far too quickly. She's hiding in somebody's backyard. Milk it. Play that atmosphere out. She's hiding amongst maybe sheets or something, or, behind a shed, and she sees Michael in the background. He's there. She looks away and she looks back, and then he's gone or something. It's like, where the hell? And then she takes off again, and the music begins again. Really, really utilize this. For me, it's a great scene, but it just ends too quickly. Sometimes less is more. In most cases, less is more, but in this case with that scene, I think it's too quick. It's too short. They could have played that out over the next minute, maybe even 1 minute, and really played up Allison hiding from the Shape in somebody's backyard. She climbs over a fence because he's coming, because she thinks he's coming. You see him kind of, you know what I mean? Really kind of play it up a bit to that music, that suspense that this film is lacking so much. There's so little genuine suspense in this movie. I'm not saying there aren't suspenseful moments, but that could have been a real suspenseful moment, having her hiding. She's quiet. The music stops. You hear the elements, the wind, an owl maybe or something. Like, where is he, right? Really build that up. It's a good horror movie for what it is. It's a modern day horror movie with some Halloween-y things tossed in. That's what I say it is. It's not. I don't hate the movie, guys. I don't hate it. But when you tell me you're doing a direct sequel to the original, there's certain things, because of the identity, there's certain things that I think need to be there. And one thing that doesn't need to be there is this useless stooge named Ray. And that's nothing to do with the actor. Okay, I actually like the actor, but the character is completely pointless. At this very moment, right from the second they show up at the house, it should all be about the two women. But of course, you need Ray there because Allison knows what this basement is. So it's almost like you need a character there that is like, what is this shit? So you can justify exposition to explain what is going on, because Laurie wouldn't explain that to her own daughter. So he's a fill character. This is where Laurie's going totally full on Sarah Connor here. Ryan, see, okay. He says, I've waited for him, he's waited for me. Right from the trailer, it stood out to me, because I always thought it should have been, it's been waiting for me, I've been waiting for it. Because it's very like, shit, that's what Dr. Loomis is. So she's come to realize. She realizes what she's dealing with, as Dr. Loomis did. Sartain still calls him, Michael. But she doesn't call him. That's what it should have been. That's what it should have been. Now, here's a scene here. Michael's about to be hit. This should not have happened. All right, I'm going to talk over this here as you guys watch it. Don't hit him. Right. I don't think he should have hit him. I think he should have stopped. Sartain should have been, let me, stop it. I know what I need to do. Stop. And he gets out and walks up to Michael. And Michael doesn't do anything. Michael's just standing there. And Hawkins is watching from the car. And Allison is in the back seat. And she's watching as well. Right? You know what I mean? And Dr. Sartain is talking to Michael. And that's where you can use some exposition about, I know who you are, Michael. Come with me. Or whatever he says, whatever exposition you want to utilize there. But Michael's not having any of it. And he picks up the doctor and kills him. Or he murders him. Or, whatever the case is. And sorry, I'm just caught off guard here. By now we're going to have... This is so weird. It doesn't feel organic at all. And especially when he puts on the mask and he comes up into frame and Michael's in the car and we see his bald head and it's like, dude, guys, no. He's the boogeyman. That's why this should have been Dr. Sartain talking to Michael, standing up to him, talking to him. I can take you to her. I can take you to Laurie Strode. I know where she is. Come with me, Michael. Come. And he doesn't want to have anything with that. He doesn't give a shit. He just kills him right there. Gets rid of him. That's one way you could have done it to avoid the scene that we're seeing here. Because what ends up happening is you have this twist that never really feels followed through. Or sorry, that never was follow. The twist was never... Nobody followed through on the twist. Because as quickly as this happens, 5 minutes later, Dr. Sartain is smushed to bits, and that's kind of the end of it. So it plays out to me that it was utilized as an excuse to get Michael to Laurie. Well, how are we going to get him to Laurie? Okay, we'll have this crazy doctor lose it, put Michael in the back seat, he drives them 3/4 of the way there, and boom, there you go. If I was in the writer's room, I would have said, guys, we can do this better. If we want to get Laurie to Michael, we can figure out a better way of utilizing that and getting them together. I didn't buy into the way that they did it. It felt very off track. I like his motivation. I like what he's even saying here as he's wiping the blood off his I like what he's saying. He's saying all the right things. It's interesting. But he could have been saying that to Hawkins before he got out of the car and walked up to Michael, because he actually feels that there's some humanity left in Michael. So he feels that he's a bit naive. He feels that he can go out and walk up to Michael and actually speak to him. And maybe he could have done that at Smith's Grove. Maybe he could do that when Michael is chained up. Maybe he can do that when Michael is there and drugged up. But now that he's out in captivity, now that he's out in he's out of captivity in the wild, so to speak, it's a different ballgame. Michael's not drugged up anymore, and any drugs that he was on are completely gone. So you can utilize you actually can have him kill Dr. Sartain right then and there. And it's like, oh shit, fuck, that didn't go over well, right? And maybe Allison gets out of the car and runs away, starts running. Maybe they're halfway through to Laurie's house. Maybe they're almost at, this happens because they're 3/4 of the way there, or they're halfway there, and Allison gets out of the car and runs down the road, and Michael gets in the cop car and starts chasing Allison in the cop car. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can utilize it. Like, that's just a baseline. It's a blueprint of something you could utilize. Okay? Something you could do to kind of switch it. Again, I'm speaking very fast here because I have to keep up with what's happening in the movie. But that's one way that you could kind of place that down as a blueprint and then start to sort of get details and and flesh it out from there. Of course, the scene with the Officer Phillips, and it was just that scene with the two cops that just played, sorry, I was talking about the Dr. Sartain thing because it just bugs me so much, didn't play out as organic for me either. It was genuinely funny, but it went on for far too long. Way too long. They could have cut that scene like 30 seconds way before. Michael now has the mask on. He's killing Sartain in the car. Say something. Say something. He could have done that way back there and been killed back there. And Michael never would have had to have been unmasked. Sartain never would have had to have worn the mask, and he could have taken the cop car. Allison ran off down the road as he was, yeah, that's what it is. Allison would, here comes that's a cool shot. Low angle shot of Michael with the red glow. How fucking heavy is Michael Myers? That's a Friday the 13th kill. It's cool. It's visually cool. And everybody in the audience was like, whoa! But it's not. It's it's almost comical to me. But again, low power shot. You see him kind of going like this. All right, I like that. But going back to Sartain, you could have had him kill him there. Allison breaks out of the police car, runs down the street. Michael gets in the police car, chases after Allison in the direction that she went, and he winds up at the Strode house. Following Allison. You could have done it that way. You could have done it that way. Christopher Hernandez says, you remind me of my 8th period teacher who rants on movies like these. Maybe I am. Maybe I am your 8th period teacher. By the way, your homework's due tomorrow. Just want to let you know that. Now, the moment Sartain is murdered by the boot smushing his face into oblivion, they toss away the twist. And now it's kind of like, oh, okay. Now we feel sort of back on track. So from this moment now, the third act is beginning. And everything feels sort of back on track. And of course, we have a Myers hybrid. That's actually, if you pay close attention to that house that's there in the corner, it looks like the Myers house, but it's got one too many windows at the top. It's got 3 windows at the top where the Myers house only had 2. And of course, the Myers house did not have a triangle roof on top of each of the windows. So but the porch sort of looks like it's like, I don't know if they didn't have the rights to use the likeness of the Myers house, if it's not even supposed to be the Myers house. I have no idea. But it's definitely some sort of hybrid. You see, you could have done that. You could have had Myers show up in a cop car and kill these two. Yeah. I'll talk about it more at length some other time. Pretty cool stuff in terms of makeup, visual effects. Christopher Nelson, Academy Award-winning makeup effects artist. You've outdone yourself. It looks great. See, there's no suspense there, though. Michael just walks up behind him, and there's no suspense, really. So it's cool. Michael looks great, but I don't feel any suspense. Anthony Stanfield says, thank you for the super chat, Anthony. You say you liked it, but did it disappoint you? Yes, it did. Yes, because the things that they did well, they did really well, which makes the things they completely missed out on that much more frustrating. Like, this is the music here. Great. The tension that is building here. There's a little bit of tension. You can feel it, right? You can feel it. It's like, oh, wait a minute. You feel more tension here than you ever did during the Vicky scene. Now, it's a different type of tension. I almost bit my tongue. It's a different type of tension. The stakes are a bit higher. It's a different type of suspense. But what you're feeling right now, you should have been feeling that type of suspense and that little bit of anxiety more throughout the movie. Not in the same ways, but I'm just saying the same kind of feeling. So you're feeling it here. The music stops. Michael's here. You see the look on Karen's face like, shit just got fucking real. And this is I love how close we are here. It seems like, what the fuck's going on? He's banging her head. Michael's mask looks great through the window. This is a genuinely, in my opinion, a pretty cool looking shot and scene. And I actually thought that he was going to kill her. Maybe he should have. Okay, do you see how... Yeah. This is where the fingers get blown off. Here it comes! Here it comes! Ooh! I remember when I first saw this at the world premiere, I thought to myself, that might rub people the wrong way. I didn't mind it. But I remember thinking, not everybody's going to like that because you're altering the look of Michael now? Shit. So Laurie now, but it was cool. And if you guys haven't noticed yet already, it's these two fingers. Well, if you take this and point it downwards, or just, put your hand at your side, point it down to the ground, that's a sign of the devil. And what does Michael have? The devil's eyes. That's the kind of symbolism that I like. That was actually kind of cool. Whether David Gordon Green and Danny McBride intentionally made it these two fingers because of that, I'm not sure. But that was actually that's a layer that is added to this film that not everybody's going to pick up on. And where do we see that? Where that shot where it's coming up here. Here it is. Here's the shot now. There's the pan upwards, the sign of the devil. And then we come up to Michael Myers. The lighting is great. It's the best shot in the whole movie of Michael Myers, relatively speaking. But I still think you could have lit Michael a bit, had a key light over here, lighting the side of his face just a bit more. It's almost a little too dark, but it's a cool shot with some adjustments just to show that boogeyman. Just a little bit on his face. Not too much. Not too much. Just a little bit. It could have made that even more cool. Brendan Morrow, $2 super chat. Thank you again. Brandon says Money Shot is coming up. Best shot of the shake. Oh, was that the one you did, or did I answer that already? I think I answered that already. My apologies. For some reason, I thought another one came up. Now, we're at the scene here where Laurie Strode is walking up the stairs, and she's basically now a little cat and mouse chase ensues. Karen Strode, it's not her last name, obviously, but Karen is in the basement wondering what the fuck's going to happen. There's no music here. I like the camera movements. Definitely, relatively speaking to the rest of the movie, this is, I feel, not as much as I want to, not to the degree that I was hoping, but I definitely feel suspense here. I feel the pacing is good. Of course, she looks at the closet. It's a very similar closet to what was she hid in 40 years earlier, obviously. The same kind of closet. That's no mistake. Now, for those of you that don't know, when Laurie, I don't think she's in her bedroom yet, right? No, she's at the front door. When Laurie gets to her bedroom upstairs, pay close attention. That actually, the way the bedroom is laid out, it is an exact replica of the bedroom at the end of the 1978 film, The Strode House. Because for those of you that don't know, they were actually going to recreate the ending of the movie for the beginning of this movie, which I'm glad they didn't, because there's no need. I mean, you would change the end. You can't change the ending of the movie. You can't show Michael being apprehended on the front lawn, because then that totally renders the ending of the 78 film obsolete. So you can't do that. I'm not saying they were, but anyways, they built an exact replica of the Strode bedroom from the 1978 film. So when Laurie gets to her bedroom where Michael attacks her, where she goes out the balcony and falls off, pay close attention to the layout. Obviously it looks a bit different because of all the mannequins, and they have to make it look like it's Laurie's, but the layout, where everything is the same. Where the closet is, where the doors to the balcony are, it's the same. So that's a bit of information that you may not get. Laurie is now walking up the steps here. I remember when I was watching this again for the first time, I remember thinking to myself, I like this. I mean, there's things that I would do a bit different, but I like what David Gordon Green is doing here. He's a talented director. He is. And I like what he's doing, showing the perspective from the flashlight on the gun and things like that. It's shot very well. It looks great. Like, the film looks great. Again, which is why it's so frustrating when the things they didn't do or get right, or they didn't utilize, or the missed opportunities that they could have utilized, it makes it that much more frustrating. If this was a shit show through and through, you'd be disappointed, but you'd be like, well, whatever. But it's not a shit show through and through, which is why it's like, oh, guys, oh. So here we are. Now pay close attention. See where the balcony is? See where the bed is? And the closet is on the left side of the bed. This is an exact replica layout of the Doyle bedroom from the end of 1978's Halloween. Pretty cool stuff. Zed Gore Skate 45 $1.99 super chat. Thank you very much. Dave, do you have peanut butter on your penis? Yes, right now I do. I have peanut butter on my penis this very second. You cannot watch this movie without putting some peanut butter on your penis. Opens the closet door and sees Ray dead. I felt nothing when I saw that character dead. I didn't give a shit that he was dead. I didn't think the reveal of his death was, whoa. Didn't care. Don't care. It's almost like they stuck him in the closet there because we're like, oh yeah, we got to show his, oh yeah. Yeah, we got to show that Laurie knows he's dead. Throw him in the closet. How the fuck did he get him up there? Now, I personally think in this scene, instead of Michael Myers coming out from behind a couple of the mannequins all of a sudden, which is cool, it works, they should have had Laurie looking at the mannequins, misdirect your audience, draw your audience to the mannequins, and then have his face slowly emerge from the darkness. That's what they should have done. That would have been like, oh shit, because that's his MO. That's what he's doing. But instead, they have him do what we pretty much thought he was going to do. He just comes out. That's what I would have done. Misdirect your audience. And really build that suspense and tension. The fight here is pretty cool. I think, yeah, it's just lighting. There's certain things, and it's just certain adjustments. Laurie falling off the balcony. Yeah, I mean, Michael coming out. I actually don't mind the shot of him. I don't mind it because he's lit more heavily from one side, him looking down. I don't mind that shot. It's very boogeyman-esque. I don't mind it. But we shouldn't ever see him thinking. Like that shot there, low angle shot. She's gone. Okay, haha, cute, right? It's cute. But I don't ever think we should show Michael thinking. Do you know what I mean? Like the shot when you hear, grandmother, and he turns back and he turns away like this. You don't necessarily need to show that. There's another shot coming up here of Michael Myers that is not bad, with some adjustments in the lighting. But again, you can't just adjust the lighting to expose Michael. You would have to adjust. See, it's this shot right here, but it's almost too dark. You would have to adjust the lighting for the entire interior of the house, because it has to feel organic as he's walking through the space. So you can't just have Michael like has his own lighting, right? You know, that's not how it works. You know, you have to light the space appropriately, and Michael walks through it. So don't misunderstand me when I say that, you know, it's like, no, Michael, everywhere he goes, he's got his own lighting. You know, it's like, no. That's not what I mean. And I watch this and I think to myself, I should be feeling some suspense. And there is some suspense. I mean, it's not that there isn't anything here, but it's more curious on what's going to happen. Do you know what I mean? It more feels like I'm curious on how Michael's going to open this thing. Is he just going to talk? Like, I feel kind of like it's a curious suspense, not necessarily a life-threatening suspense. But it is there. Like, it's there, but it's funny. It's interesting. And again, I would love to be able to dive deep, like scene for scene for scene for scene, but I got to keep this going, or this whole live stream, and you guys probably wouldn't care, but for the sake of my voice, I mean, this whole thing could be like 9 hours long. So the commentary, again, is just sort of like, you know, as we're going along, I give my quick thoughts. So this is the moment where we realize, okay, Karen obviously has some strength. She's not the complete nincompoop, naive turd that we thought she was, even though we still kind of think she might be here. And then she's like, gotcha. And it's like, that got a woo from the audience at the world premiere. I just was kind of like, nah. Okay, gotcha. Okay, gotcha. He's the boogeyman. You don't gotcha? And this scene here where Laurie says, "Happy Halloween, Michael," and she just emerges from the darkness. It's too cheesy to me. This here, it's too cheesy. It's the way she kind of comes out. I don't know if that was digitally done or if somebody turned up the dimmer on the light too fast or something. But it was just like, bloop. It was like, it's not that she says, I've come to realize it's not that she says, "Happy Halloween, Michael," although that could be perceived as cheesy. It's that she comes out of the darkness so fast and says it. If we didn't see her at all and it was just dark behind him and she says, "Happy Halloween, Michael," it's like, what the fuck? Where is she? And then she comes out and attacks him or something. I think it would have worked better. Now, it works for a lot of people, but for me, it would have been a little cheesy, a little on the nose for me. If they just didn't turn up the dimmer so fast or whatever, it's like, bloop, there I am. Been waiting here the whole time. Just seemed a little yeah. For me, I think if they had kept her in the dark and we just hear her say it, and then she comes out of nowhere, I think it would have worked better, but that's me. So Michael now is being trapped in the basement from a fight, a struggle with the Strode women. Laurie has now turned on the gas, but I'm telling you, I still believe to this day that Laurie should have sacrificed herself to save her family. Laurie should be down there with Michael, and the device is still there. So it's like, and the Strode girls, Karen and Allison, are looking at their mother. They can't get to her. They can't get to her because of the bars. And they see Michael and Laurie struggling and having this all-out fight. And they're like, "No, Mom, no!" And she's turned on the gas and she's lighting things. And it's like, "Mom, no, come on, Mom, no!" And they're like, and she's like, save yourself. This is the moment that Laurie is sacrificing herself to burn to death with the shape. She's sacrificing herself to save her granddaughter and her daughter. because she wants to burn with Michael Myers, because it's the only way that she feels that it can give her peace. Both peace to Michael and Laurie. They burn in the fire together, sacrificing herself to save her daughters. That's how I think it should have gone out. Now, I understand from a business perspective why it didn't. You want to leave that door open a little bit for the potentiality of a sequel. I get it. I understand it. But man, think of how powerful that would have been to see the Strode girls yelling for their mom and their mom yelling for them to get out. And you still have this music and attacking Michael and holding on. Oh, man. And man, going down in a literal blaze of glory. She would have gone down as like more legend than she already is. Fucking Laurie Strode took down the fucking boogeyman in epic fashion. Anyways, the shot there of Michael not at the stairs. Michael is not at the stairs. That is your signifying to you that, oh, where is he? We're in the back of the car now, or back of the truck with the Strode women. The shot moves over to the... Oh. What happened there? Did I lose something? My stream went offline. I should still be streaming. Oh no. Are we still on? Oh, are we still on? I think we're still on. Are we still on? I think we're still here. I'm back. Okay, good. Sorry about that, guys. That was kind of creepy. Right at the very end of the movie, the stream cuts out. That's fucking weird. Woo! That's kind of creepy. Okay, good that I'm back. Well, listen. So the end credits are playing now. And yeah, that was it. Those are sort of my thoughts. Listen, Chris Baber sent a super chat. Sorry, Chris, I missed that. Where is it here? Who in the hell, instead of these trapdoor blades? Who in the hell installed these trapdoor blades? And why does the small Myers house have dormers? Yeah, I know. Very, very strange. Brandon Morrow, $2 super chat says, it's like Laurie was a lamp head. Happy Halloween. Yeah, yes, exactly. It was like, God, I'm spitting like crazy. That's what happens when you talk nonstop for nearly 2 hours. Okay. I just feel so bad if you keep seeing my spit. So that was my commentary, like as is commentary. Obviously, again, if I had stopped over every scene, I could have given a little more details, but I think I did a pretty good job considering I was watching as we went along. I don't hate this movie, but I don't love this movie, and I didn't like it the way that I should have, that I feel I should have. Now, there are a lot of people that love this movie and think it's the best sequel ever. There are a lot of people that love this film and love it more than Halloween 2, 1981. Not for me. I'm just trying to go down here. Not for me. But I definitely can say that it is the best Halloween sequel, yes, we've probably had since the original. I mean, it doesn't... There's certain visual styles that I was hoping to see, but it didn't make a mockery of the franchise. It's not a bad movie. I've seen worse films. It's a good modern day horror movie with some Halloween-y things tossed in. I equated it to like going home again and revisiting some old friends, but I don't think it needs a sequel. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not fully convinced that this movie is going to get a sequel. I'm not convinced, folks. I'm really not. I know that it made a shitload of money, 250 something million worldwide. I know Jason Blum and company are very happy. And I know that the probability of a sequel because of that is higher, but I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced they're going to make a sequel. So if a sequel is not made to this movie, like a direct sequel to this story, I won't be surprised. So just keep that in mind. But we'll talk more about that in future videos. Yeah, so I will take some questions here. Let's take 10 minutes of questions. 10 minutes of questions, folks, if you want to ask me some questions about Halloween 2018 or the stream or what we watched. Questions. You know what? I'm going to take this off now Woohoo! All right. Zach Gaxola says, did you want Hawkins to live? Yes. I think Hawkins should have lived. I think Hawkins was a strong enough character that people could glom onto and get attached to. I think he should have lived. And yeah, I think it was. I think he should have been the sheriff and lived. $5 super chat from Jacob Whiteley. Thank you, Jacob. Appreciate that. I think Michael and Allison have some kind of connection. He never really hunts her. He just ignores her. I think they might develop that in a sequel. I don't think so. I mean, we know that that's not his niece. Okay. We know that. So a connection in terms of what? I don't really know. I think he just never hunts her because he's not hunting anybody specifically in this movie. I don't think he went back to Haddonfield specifically to look for Laurie. I think he just, because of circumstances, because of Sartain, wound up with Laurie. But I think he went back to Haddonfield because that's all he knows. Because, you know, that's what he knows. I mean, that's what it is. We have to remember, because of this new movie, Michael Myers has only been out in the wild for one night. So he committed a crime in 1963. He was locked up for 15 years. He escapes for one night and then gets locked up for 40 years. So in 55 years, he's been out in the wild, so to speak, out and about for one night. Well, if he escapes after 40 years, what's the logical place, if he could get his hands on a vehicle, that he's probably going to go that he knows that is in close proximity? Haddonfield. So I think that's probably that's sort of, it's not spilled out like that in the narrative, but you can fill in the blanks that that's probably what they were doing. So I don't think there's a connection necessarily, but you know, you never know. Cyber Wolf says, do you think Danielle Harris would have been a better selection for the daughter? No, I don't think so. I think it was completely unnecessary because this is not a direct sequel to Halloween 4 or 5 or 6. Well, she died in 6. Halloween 4 or 5. It's unnecessary to have her cast as the daughter. You can do it, but then you're doing it for no other reason than just fan service. Right? And when David Gordon Green and Danny McBride were writing the script, if in what their mind they pictured a tall blonde that was more reminiscent of Jamie Lee Curtis, well, that's what they pictured. And Danielle Harris is the complete opposite of a tall blonde. I think she's like 5'1", and, you know, a brunette. So there's no reason to have her as the daughter because she's not. Jamie Lloyd does not exist. In this new timeline, there is no such thing as Jamie Lloyd. So it's unnecessary. Would she have played a better Karen Strode? Maybe, but if she's being directed to say the same things and act the same way, then maybe not, right? I know a lot of fans wanted Danielle Harris there because of you know, the shit she kind of got, but there was it wasn't necessary, right? It's not like, if this was a sequel to Halloween 4, I would have been on. I would have said yes, absolutely. If this was a sequel to Halloween 4 and they were pretending that Halloween 5 and 6 did not exist, I would say you bet your ass you get Danielle Harris in there, 100%, because that makes sense. But it's not. Okay, scrolling up here. Let's see here. Oliver Mercer says, Dave, do you think Dr. Loomis died plus Danielle Harris had played Karen's sister under a different name? Well, do you think Dr. Loomis died? Yes, he did die. Yes. How he died, maybe? I don't know. No, I think it would have been too distracting. I think if you had cast Danielle Harris as her daughter, well, it's just fan service then. It's just because remember, really what the fans want is not just Danielle Harris. You want Jamie Lloyd. I mean, you'll take what you can get, okay? But at the end of the day, what you want is Jamie Lloyd. And you have to remember that even if Danielle Harris was playing a daughter named Jamie, it's not the same Jamie that you fell in love with in Halloween 4 and 5. Because that incarnation of Jamie doesn't exist. Right? So it's not the same Jamie. It's a completely different Jamie. So it's irrelevant at the end of the day. You know, so it wasn't, I know a lot of fans were upset, but it's irrelevant. They have to go with what They picked as I said, the only time I would have been on board with that and pissed if they didn't is if they said, yeah, we're doing a direct sequel to Halloween 4 and we're casting Judy Greer as Jamie. I would have been like, the fuck you doing? You can't do that. Then I would have been upset. Super chat, Anthony Stanfield. Thank you, Anthony. Says, what do you think about the Loomis voiceover? Not bad. Not bad. There were certain moments that were like, but there were certain moments, whoever the voice actor was hit it enough. He hit the cadence enough. He hit the tonality enough that I bought it. And that's what you have to remember, is that you have to ask yourself, do I buy that this is Dr. Loomis? Can I listen to this? It's a recording from January 79. So it's a recording on analog cassette tape. It's not it's not digital, right? Do I buy that this is Loomis? The same Loomis from Halloween, 1978. Do I buy that this could be the same? Yeah, I buy it. I buy it. He sounds like him enough that I totally buy it. Nathan Oswald, super chat. Thank you, Nathan. Says, we got Lee McCoy in the chat. Do we? Lee McCoy? Oh, yeah, there he is. Hey, Drum Dums Lee. The awesome Lee McCoy. Hey, if you guys have not checked out Lee McCoy's channel, you've got to do it. Lee McCoy and also Killer Flicks on Facebook. You got to like that. Lee is just a sweetheart of a guy and awesome. Awesome dude. Knows his horror stuff. He's a great reviewer. I'm not a horror reviewer per se, but if you want some cool horror reviews, you got to check out Lee, because he's one cool dude. Spooky Guy says Lee's amazing. Yes, he is. Lee is amazing. Movie Chat and More says good Rocky fan too. Who is? Lee? Is he a good Rocky fan? Admiral Akbar says, how about another Dr. Loomis story? His other obsession. Yeah, I know you won't read my script, but but serious adjacent Halloween mythology, not fan fiction. Well, you know what? If you've got a script, my man, and you think it's pretty cool, then, and you got a phone and you can save up some money, don't be afraid. Don't even feel that you've got to. Here's a great thing, okay? If you want to make that movie, it's a fan movie, okay? So again, you don't own the IP, the intellectual property, so you can't make money off of that, okay? But there's no reason why you can't muster up a little bit of cash, take a scene from that movie, a scene that you really like, that you, every time I think, this is really cool, and do a concept video. Shoot that scene. Maybe it's a 5-minute scene. Maybe it's a 3-minute scene. Shoot that scene, and maybe you can use that to help raise a bit of money to help shoot it or save some money. Maybe you can't really raise money for fan films per se. There's some legalities around that, but you certainly can save up some money, or shoot it, one at a time. Shoot on your phone. Everybody's got a fucking phone in their pocket now. Go ahead and shoot it. Shoot something if you're proud, but be proud of it though, and keep working on it. It's not easy writing. It's not easy writing scripts. I felt like Donald Trump there. It's not easy writing scripts, okay? It's great. It's amazing. It's fantastic. Sad Society says, why didn't they utilize Myers cutting power and phone lines to the house? Would have ruined the ending. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't. That's true. I didn't think about that. Let's see here. Cameron McCradle movie reviews. Was the comedy too much for you? It was 100%. If you haven't checked out my epic Halloween 2018 review, it's on my channel. It was. It wasn't that the comedy wasn't funny. If this wasn't a Halloween film and this was some comedy, well, then great. But the comedy in this movie was situational comedy. It took me out of it. For me, I'm just speaking for me. We can agree to disagree, folks. The second act of Halloween 2018 has an identity crisis. It has an identity problem. There's a lot of things that I like, and there's a lot of things I'm like, oh, dude, you missed the opportunity there. What are you doing? And the comedy just took me out. It's unnecessary. It didn't feel organic to me. So it ruined any sort of suspense that they were trying to create. That's my opinion. Terrell Sims, thank you for the super chat, Terrell. What do you think of a Black Christmas fan film? Oh, sure. Yeah, I've thought about doing one myself. Yeah, I think that would be cool. Let's see you guys do that. Brandon Morrow super chat says, any idea what movie you will do commentary on next? Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. this was a commentary that I opened up to everybody. If you're part of my Patreon, part of my Level 3 Patreon, I try to do something called a Saturday movie night that I try to do it once a month. And that's exclusive to level number 2 and 3 patrons. The live feed is, and then once the stream is done, it's opened up to everybody. So you can watch past, I think if you go on my channel now, there's a, Anyway, it's there. All the Saturday movie nights I've done so far is there. The word I was trying to think of. Can't think of it. Anyway, let's see here. Philip Tiesto PL says, love your channel, Dave. Thank you, Philip. Appreciate that. Loggerhead says, do you think Michael is dead? Yes, if they never do a sequel. No, if they do. You know what? It depends, right? Because it depends on what you are talking about. Is the essence of the boogeyman, which was the original message of the film, will always live on. Evil will always live on. But let's not forget, Michael Myers, he is human. I believe Michael can physically die. Yes, I do believe he can. He's not a supernatural entity that lives on forever. But the essence of what Dr. Loomis was talking about, the evil inside this man, the lack of empathy, the coldness, whatever he is, how is he, whatever, and you were never supposed to know. Like John Carpenter said, is he a man? Is he not? That's what was so great about that first movie. You were never supposed to know really what he was. And that was part of the allure and the suspense and the mystique and the unknown and why we love him so much in that movie. And all that just went to the shitter when they gave him a motive and they expanded on the motive in 4 and 5 and 6 and H2O. It's like, this is just, now he's just like everybody else. He's just like everybody else. But that's why that first movie is not revered just because it's a good horror movie that's suspenseful. There's many reasons why that movie is revered in terms of the identity and the execution and the character. There's so many layers. Okay, we'll go for a couple more minutes. Matt Delov says, do you think they will do a sequel? I'm not convinced of it. My sequel idea that I talked about earlier last year, or about 2 months ago, that I did a little trailer for those of you that don't know, it is coming. Where I talk about my sequel idea to Halloween 2018. But again, don't take that as an endorsement that I think they need to do a sequel. I actually don't think they do. I couldn't care less whether I saw a sequel to this movie or not, because I don't think it needs one. And that's why I think it would have been better if Laurie sacrificed herself in the fire. I think that's what she should have done. It would have been I understand why they didn't, but I think it would have been awesome. But I approach my sequel idea as, okay, well, this is a business. We want to do a sequel. Okay, that's a smart business move. Okay, well, I approach my sequel idea of, okay, how do we do a sequel to this movie that's going to feel organic, genuine, and not forced, and, still do justice to the character and the mythology of Halloween. But my sequel idea, I will say this, is it's a one-off. It's supposed to end everything. Because I don't think you need to go on and on and on. And you know what I say, the more you go on and on and on, the more we'll be right back where we were before this movie. So, yeah. Steve McCoy says, Laurie's death, sacrificing herself to save her family, would have given the movie a much more needed emotional impact. I agree. End of discussion. I agree. Okay, guys, that's going to do it for me. I really appreciate you guys tuning in and watching this live stream here on this Monday, February the 4th, 2019. Again, I had to sort of give my quick thoughts on what I was watching, so I had to sort of barrel roll over. I wanted to be more in depth and take more time than I actually did, because you guys know me. I like to hone in on specifics. But again, for the sake of keeping this live stream going, I had to sort of speak as quickly as I could while the scene was on screen. So if you want to know my thoughts in the future, or in the future. If you want to know my detailed thoughts, go watch that epic review. But that's going to do it for me. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. You know that. I thank you for tuning in, and I thank you for tuning in and supporting the channel each and every time I do a video. So that's going to do it for me. I should have another video coming this week. I think I should anyway. For those of you that don't know, the Child's Play trailer drops this Friday. I'm thinking it might drop maybe even a bit earlier, maybe Thursday. I just got this feeling, but definitely it's dropping this Friday if it doesn't. So I will try to do my best to do a video on that and what I see and what I think, but we'll see how that goes. So in the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you guys soon. I think you guys are awesome.